Now, if we're assuming that anything I as an adult am doing has a need or a want in it at its foundation, then we're looking at a fundamental step that needs to be taken in the process of making therapy really effective. And here we run into one of the classical difficulties that the therapeutic process will face. I've alluded to the fact that when we're children and we don't feel gotten, cherished, caressed, warmed, held, known, that the experience is painful. And in the face of that, we cannot lose the intelligence we are endowed with as human beings. We cannot lose the bodies and feelings that we experience as human beings. But what we do in the face of the lack of understanding is we divide them and keep them apart. So I will not know, I will not feel, I will not experience, you see, the painfulness of what I am going through. So I will become what I refer to as a head. I think about it all the time. I try to analyze it. I try to understand. I try to understand why she said that, why he did this, what he was driving at, what she was looking for. I will think to try and understand it. I will not reach solutions, but I will continue to rely on my thought. If you're extreme, as I was as a young man growing up, then you don't even know you have feelings. You certainly don't allude to them, and you don't realize them. You don't define them in any way. The alternative is to become what I call a heart, which is to be in the feelings, in the emotions, in the experience all the time. And if asked what the feeling is, if it's asked what is the emotion, what is the experience, what are you talking about? I don't know. It just is. And there's no understanding of it. Now, for someone who is involved in the therapeutic process, it's very important that this difference be understood, because in either case, the experience being presented will be somewhat garbled. In other words, if I'm a head, what are you talking about? I didn't even know what my feelings are. Why are you alluding to that? And most therapists are ready for this. Well, you have to get in touch with your feelings. And what they do is they assume they're talking to someone who did what I did, who doesn't even realize he has feelings. Now, for such a person, the initial process, and I won't say that will happen all at once, it's just to go on in the therapeutic process, is to, in a certain sense, flow from the head down into the body and realize in any given situation what the feeling is. So my own experience with that as a therapist is I'll say, well, what was your feeling? And more often than not, if I'm talking to someone who's a head and who's used to thinking, I say, well, I don't know. I mean, it was painful. You see, or they'll give some kind of summary judgment, but they won't say why it was painful or what the feeling was. And often there's no realization that that needs to be given a clarity, that in your body right now is terror, in your body is sadness, in your body is fatigue, in your body is longing, is envy, is any of those feelings. Now, conversely, you see, if I'm awash in the emotion, my experience of that is that the individual involved, he or she, must be urged to somehow apply their intelligence to this emotion. Yeah, well, what is the feeling you're feeling? What do you mean? You see, and very often when the reliance is on feeling and the idea is to escape the pain, the question of, well, what's your feeling? What's the definition of it? Apply your mind to it. Feels like an attack. Feels like they're putting the feeling down. So the reaction will be hostile. Well, why don't you leave me alone? It's just my feeling. What are you telling me? Not to feel what I feel? You see? And so the head needs to come in contact with that feeling to give it I'm feeling envy. You say, okay, well, what's the envy about? I'm feeling sadness. Well, what's the sadness about? I'm feeling greedy. What's the greed about? I'm feeling fury. What's the fury about? You see, you can go on. In other words, either way, if I need to discover that I am feeling a feeling, or if I need to see that I'm feeling a feeling, but I need to understand what that feeling is, it's the coming together into a wholeness of my own experience that is being invited there. And that will be accompanied by pain, by suffering, by fear, by a desire to get away from it. Because after all, that which I'm entering into, that which I'm feeling here, is why I split in the first place and what I'm aiming to avoid in the first place. And that's why I say it's very important to realize that to successfully enter into the therapeutic process is to invite bad feeling, the very thing which supposedly we're trying to get rid of, often the reason for seeking out therapy in the first place. That's why I kind of make a joke of it, but I'm dead serious. My clients will say, I came to you to feel better. You're telling me I feel a heck of a lot worse, and you're telling me that's a wonderful thing? Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? As long as you as an individual, feel trusted, you feel okay, feel like I'm not putting you down. I'm not pathologizing. I'm not condemning. I'm not telling you you're doing the wrong thing. I'm not stacking you into some ridiculously blind category with a disorder or some kind of one of those judgmental things. What you're bringing in is welcome. You are welcome. And to feel the fullness of your own experience is welcome here, because it will be what serves you, all right, to lead you into the kind of healthier life that you are seeking. One of my clients a few years ago put it beautifully as we were talking about this very thing. A very insightful, very brilliant, very imaginative young man. And he looked up after one of these conversations, he said to me, oh, I get it. The demons become data. And I said, wow. You're going to hear that again, because that's a perfect way to say that. In other words, when I can embrace it, when I can feel and know it, when I can understand what my experience is, then I'm in a position to use my very pain, my very suffering, my very difficulty as the data I need for what I am seeking, you see, and what it is I am looking for. Now, one client of mine told me recently that he was in a situation where he saw a handsome man, a beautiful woman, and two beautiful children in a vehicle that he was traveling in. And all he could feel was envy about it. He just looked and envy him. And of course, envy is a bad feeling, so he was feeling bad for feeling bad. There it is again, you see. And I said to him, no. I said, that envy is a wonderful feeling. What is it saying? And you know, you could see the surprise on his face, but to be asked what envy was saying, he said, kind of very thoughtful, he said, well, I want that. I want to have the kind of thing that I saw there. The family, a lovely wife, lovely children, a good time together. And all. Yeah. I said, yeah. So what's wrong with your envy? And he kind of, well, nothing, I guess. Well, if I'm not ready to take my experience as that kind of data, I will not be able to define. All I'll be standing there saying I shouldn't be envious. Well, why not? It so happened that in the experience of this person I'm alluding to, there was a kind of message in his childhood, don't have what you seek, don't ever have what you seek. So naturally, when he sees this thing he very much desires, he comes up with a feeling which is presumably negative. After all, if you're envying and you're feeling envy, then you should just stop being envious and cure your envy and, you know, get healthy. And the envy, the real feeling he was having in the presence of this lovely family and the lovely experience they were apparently having, is not something he's permitted to do. Well, it's a double wipeout. You're not allowed to have it, and if you have a feeling that you'd like to have it, you can't have that feeling. How is that going to make any kind of progress? How is that going to act as a guide to you as an individual for the kind of life you would like to lead? And my point about this is that I believe that almost every feeling, if not every feeling, I want to be careful here, but I'm really moving in the direction of every feeling, can be understood as this kind of a desire. as long as we receive it, welcome it, and try to understand what it really seeks, what it is it's really questing for. So a fundamental question invariably is if I can receive the feeling and welcome it, and the individual can feel welcome with that feeling, the next and most fundamental and important question is, what does it want? Want. Very often an individual will say, if I say, what do you want? Oh, it's too big. Can't ask a question like that. It's overwhelming. But if I say, what does it want? Alluding to the specific feeling or feelings, right? Somehow easier to do. Especially if the fundamental assumption is this feeling is welcome and it wants something which it is discerning. And now we just have to figure out what that want is and what it is that's being seen, that's being desired. That's a good direction, that seems to me, for a life to move in. A demon becomes data and can turn into something positive.